Detroit Den 313, Detroit Lions fans, welcome back. Stephen Will. We're talking Detroit Lions football. Now, we kind of have to, I guess we have to retract some statements we've made, Will. We were pretty harsh on our guy CJ Gardner-Johnson after the NFC Championship game a little more than a week ago. We were trying to run him out of town. Has your mind changed at all? Do you think CJ Gardner-Johnson is a guy we need to bring back?
Hey man, CJ Gardner-Johnson is a beast, man, and NFC Championship. Didn't really like how things went. Pretty upset about it, and I don't know, man. Did maybe kind of made a hasty reaction to wanting to ship him out of town. So now that I've had some time to think about it, I hope that the guys that I hired to pack his stuff have finished packing it.
You're not retracting your statement?
No, I'm still, and it's no, I have no beef with him, man. Like I still love CJ Gardner Johnson. I just don't love him for the Detroit Lions and this culture. He's a bit of a distraction, man. I'm glad we got the opportunity to have him. I'm glad we got an opportunity to get to know him as a football player and have some fun. And a lot of people purchase $75 ski masks off Amazon, or people
Not
in the
me.
street, not me either, but people walking to the street, walking in the street to Lions games. And it was all good fun and a good time. And hopefully our guys learn some things from a guy has elite talent. But other than that, man, I think it's time. And maybe if we didn't have the depth at safety that we have, maybe I would feel different. But to me, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Steve, how do you feel about it?
Here's the thing. All pro safeties don't grow on trees in backyards. They don't. Where does the Detroit Lions really struggle toward the end of the season? It was the defensive passing game. We got shredded by a lot of guys. Our most experienced safety is probably CJ Gardner-Johnson. I think that's without question. I do think we have a depth problem. I think we have Kirby Joseph, Ife Melifonwu, Brian Branch, CJ Gardner-Johnson. I think our secondary room is loaded with safeties when we're hurting a little bit at corner. I like CJ, but here's the issue. We won games without CJ Gardner-Johnson.
We did.
We won a lot of games. We won the most games almost in franchise history. Detroit Lions hosted a home playoff game. Most of that was wrapped up without CJ. When he was injured, it seemed like we didn't really miss him on the field like I really thought we would. We had that little scare in training camp early in the year where we thought he tore his knee on like the first day of practice. We were kind of holding our breath. He came back. Everything's good. Second game of the year, goes out with the torn pec. Goes out. We were all like, I think you and I were a little like, oh, man, like where's the season going to go from here? Like this was our highest signed free agent. He's out. We don't have Emmanuel Mosley yet. Our secondary is kind of questionable. But I think we can win without him, and that's just where my mindset is. It's nothing against CJ. It's just we've proved that we don't really need him on the team, and it's a business. So
I think Brad Holmes is focusing on building a team where we don't need anybody, even with his moves at the quarterback position, having a guy like Teddy Bridgewater, drafting a guy like Hendon Hooker. Everyone on this team is replaceable, and not in a negative way, just as having depth pieces so the train keeps going if somebody falls off the train.
So you're still getting rid of CJ?
I would like for CJ to get the opportunity to pursue other options for his career.
You can say
nothing
it.
Against him.
Come on, Stephen A. Smith. Just come out and say it.
That's it.
I'm with you. I think that money, I don't know how much CJ Gardner-Johnson's going to want in a contract when he didn't really play that much this year. But looking at our money situation, our cap is somewhere around $60 million. We don't know what's going to happen with Jared Goff. We know we got to re-sign Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penei Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson coming up. We got some guys we got to re-sign.
Brian Burns.
Brian Burns. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But that money that CJ Gardner-Johnson's going to want, I think I'd rather use that in another area.
Daniil Hunter, Josh Allen.
Anyone. Yeah, we got some options. So I'm with you. I think, CJ, thank you for your 5 games you played here. Thank you for shitting the bed against San Francisco, a game you talked a lot of shit in leading up to that game. Thank you for letting Deebo Samuel expose you. We're not trying to run you out of town. We just don't think that the bark and the bite are quite lining up on Twitter and in other areas of social media when it comes to playing football.
Talk with your pads.
Yeah, not a lot of talking was done in San Francisco. Actually, zero talking was done. Let's move in to another guy. NFC Championship game. This guy is getting just crucified, Will. Josh Reynolds.
Buddy. There's a lot of people that are very angry at Josh Reynolds, and maybe rightfully so. He decided to have his worst game of the season and really worst moments of the season in the biggest game of the season. That's tough. For me personally, I'm not holding a grudge against him. I think that our quarterback loves him, and he's a kind of a security blanket. I call him the receiver tight end for Jared Goff because that's his safety net, man. When we're in those 4 wide sets or 3 wide sets, or when we don't have a tight end out there, that's where oftentimes in tough moments we see Jared going. I don't want to get rid of a guy that Jared is comfortable with. That's what it boils down. He doesn't wow me. He doesn't do anything that's super crazy amazing. He's just one of those guys who comes to work and does his job 99.9% of the days. It just happens that 0.1 was the NFC Championship.
Cost us a trip to the Super Bowl.
I don't want to say it cost us the trip because at the end of the day, there was some other things that happened, but he definitely played a role in it. How you feel about Josh?
I think if he catches that 4th and 2, we put the clamps on San Francisco.
What about if we kick the field goal? What do we do to San Francisco?
I think we matched their points, and that was the smart thing to do. So it was a lose-lose either way. I'm not blaming Josh Reynolds because I'm sticking by my philosophy that Dan should kick the field goal right there. Dan gamble. You don't gamble when the Super Bowl's on the line as much as when you're playing the Atlanta Falcons in Week 5. That's all I'm going to say. But I'm with you. I like Josh Reynolds. He's a guy that was playing very, very well in the playoffs. He was catching touchdowns against the Rams, the Bucks. Everyone was praising him. San Francisco 49ers, worst game of his career, in my opinion. Bad time to have your worst game. But it is what it is. I'd like to see him resign, but if we don't bring him back, I know we need to replace him because I don't think our receiver room is overly loaded with scary depth that intimidates other teams. We have Amon-Ra St. Brown, very underrated. But after him, Jameson Williams, we know what he could do, but he doesn't get used. So I think our receiver room is probably the sketchiest on the offense. Would you agree with that?
I would.
Maybe offensive line with the middle, just the middle of the offensive line. Question marks going into this offseason.
Both make me a little bit uncomfortable. I would say that. I don't know which one is at the pinnacle because honestly, if Amon-Ra goes down, I think we're in a world of crap because at the end of the day, while I think that J-Mo is an elite playmaker, I think that he needs guys like Laporta and Amon-Ra to allow him to be able to do the things that he can do. You know, I don't think that he's ever going to be the volume guy catching passes across the middle consistently and taking those hits that Amon-Ra St. Brown takes and peels himself off the ground and comes right back. I don't think that's ever going to be his lane. I think we're always going to see him taking the roof off of this place, man, and scoring making big plays and having big touchdowns. So if we need another guy for if Amon-Ra's banged up or he needs to miss a few games that can carry this offense, you know, and help out Laporta and the boys.
So we've talked about T. Higgins. Do you think that that's something we could still address while keeping Josh Reynolds, or would Josh Reynolds have to go for us to really address the receiver spot?
Honestly, I think it depends on who else are we signing. Because if we're getting guys like Autry on value 1-year deals or 2-year deals, then I think there's money out there to be able to sign an extra guy like T. Higgins and keep Josh Reynolds. But if we're signing the Brian Burnses and Danielle Hunters and Jalen Johnsons of the world, we might have to make some tough decisions on do you go different routes with guys, or then maybe we can't afford a T. Higgins. So it's only so many big guys, big names that we're going to be able to get, and we got to kind of offset that with who wants to come to Detroit. Seems like a lot of people are interested in Detroit now, but what's that price tag going to be, right? And sprinkling the guys that you want to get on the value deals and who you want to pay the big money.
And we've got the biggest sleeper and wide receiver still out there and technically on our team in Tom Kennedy. I'm not saying we can't bring him in and he doesn't make an immediate impact. And I'll tell you right now, 4th and 2, Tom Kennedy catches that ball. That's all I'm going to say. I'll leave it at that. But no, I think you're right with the T. Higgins thing. There's only so much money to go around. T. Higgins is probably going to want close to $20 million a year. I don't think he's worth that coming from an offense like the Bengals have. But if we decide to let Josh Reynolds just walk out the door, I think we have a big question mark at wide receiver. Love Amon St. Brown, junkyard dog, very underrated, not talked about enough nationally. Jameson Williams, weapon, got to see him catch a ball more than twice a game. That's kind of on Ben Johnson. We've talked about that in depth greatly. If you guys want to dig through those episodes and find it, feel free. We love Jameson Williams here, but we question his usage and how often we get him the ball. So after that, we're looking at like a Khalif Raymond. I like Khalif Raymond. I like Khalif Raymond more when he's returning punts, kind of in a spot duty at wide receiver. I know he's made some plays, but overall, I don't look at Khalif Raymond as an X factor as a wide receiver. I think he's a phenomenal punt returner, but he's cost him touchdowns. I'm not going to hate on him, but I don't see him as like a true wide receiver. He's about as tall as my water bottle next to me.
That's interesting, man, because I feel a little bit of the opposite. I feel like that's exactly what Khalif Raymond is, an X factor. He's not a guy that you expect to come in and week out and get production out of, but all of a sudden, maybe you're focusing in on J-Mo and Amon-Ra and Sam Laporta, and now you got Khalif Raymond taking a reverse to the house or catching a skinny post or a slant and taking it, to the house or for a big gain for 20, 30 yards and making a big play. Oftentimes, man, I'll be honest, I was guilty of forgetting about him. And next thing you know, he's making a play. I'm like, man, because a couple of seasons ago, I would have been down to cut him. I'm like, man, he's undersized. I don't know, man. We need to get because I like big guys, man. I like these big, strong. Hush your mouth. Unbelievable. I'm trying to run a show.
How big do you like him?
I cannot. You cut that in short, and I'm killing you.
That'll be on TikTok soon.
But anyways, I like big physical football players for football teams.
Hell yes.
So those are the guys that I typically like, man. But he's a ball player, man. So I don't know. I love his niche play. Long as we can keep guys like that on deals that make sense, I'm down for it.
Yeah, guys, we just got to be a little nicer. Josh Reynolds. He was a name nobody was talking about in a good way until the NFC Championship game. And I get it. We got our hearts broke. It sucked to see him have a bad game. Well, let's be honest. A lot of people had a bad game that day. Jahmyr Gibbs had his first career fumble. Dan Campbell with all his gambles and questionable decisions. Josh Reynolds. It was a perfect storm that we just ran into. You can't just look at it and say it was one person's fault. Yeah. So once, we've settled down, our emotions were high. We've talked about CJ Gardner-Johnson. I think we're all still on the same page. We're kind of wanting to bring back Josh Reynolds. Shit happens in football. I can't say that we wouldn't have been in that position without Josh Reynolds, but I think he's a good piece on our team to have for Jared Goff going forward. Would you agree?
Definitely agree. 100%.
So, guys, leave a comment down below. Let us know how you feel about CJ Gardner-Johnson. You want him gone? You want him to come back? It's hard to find all pro safeties, playmakers in the defensive backfield who can ball hawk, who can get turnovers, which is kind of where the Lions struggle. We've also talked about Josh Reynolds, what he means to the team, how our wide receiver room isn't exactly loaded. It's got some nice pieces, but we want to kind of keep it the same, maybe improve it a little bit if we can. Leave a comment down below. Hit the like button. If you're new to this channel, subscribe, and we will be back later with more content.
Peace.